in Zoom. So it's really good for just like fast, like get the pulse report of a room. For example, you could make like a poll to check in like how students did with their homework. So I think I made an example one, let me pull it up. Okay, so obviously this doesn't pertain to you to fill out, but I just wanted to show an example of, this is a color wheel assignment that I do with my FOU 120 course. And this would be an example of a poll that I would give them just to check in, like, how did your homework go over the weekend? Were you able to do X? Were you able to use Z? All these kinds of things. And then that would help me put them into breakout rooms. So the people that were maybe struggling with the digital stuff, I would put them in a room and go visit them. The people that were maybe struggling with gouache, I could put them in a room. And so it's kind of good for getting like a fast pulse report of a thing. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to say about polling in here. Okay, so here we are, polling. So what I actually like to do is I find the polling on Zoom and Slack to just, all you can really do is multiple choice. Whereas things like Microsoft Forms or Google Forms, you can actually do short answer responses. So in here, I have an example of, has anyone done like an exit survey or like a survey at the end of a week to see how students took to content or anything like that? So this is exit surveys come from like the tech world, I guess. A lot of times people that are doing like freelance and stuff like that, at the end of a week, they would have to do kind of a survey check-in of what did they like, what did they struggle with, like kind of pain points, stuff like that. So this is an example of an exit survey that I gave last semester in web type, asking like, kind of which activities did you like the most? Do you have any suggestions? How are things going for your portfolio site? All of those kinds of things. And then I want to show what the response looks like. So one of the things that's really great about Google and Microsoft Forms is that they present all the data to you visually. So you can very quickly glance over stuff, and I can see that, you know, the creating user personas wasn't as popular of an event as a lab as some of the other ones. So then I can start to address, you know, why that is. Can I improve some of those things? I also like to offer opportunities for students to give feedback. So like short form response. I'm asking them, now I can quickly see, like I can see 50% of the students are doing okay in their portfolio resource gathering. So yeah, just an example of kind of like surveys. So have other people done surveys and courses, or do you have any suggestions for that?
I've done surveys on, not on Zoom, but on Canvas, which is what I use for grading. I do one at the beginning, at the middle, and at the end of the semester. But I haven't done it by week. That's interesting, an interesting idea.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of what I'm finding in my research too is just kind of like building like a really solid routine. So if students know to expect that exit survey at the end of each week, then it just kind of becomes pattern. And then it allows opportunity for you to then kind of like adjust things, or like them to let you know, like, you know, this could maybe speed up, this could slow down. It really helped a lot in the virtual classroom to have that survey feedback.
I agree. I think surveys are great, especially if you make them anonymous, because a lot of the times if you ask in class, does anyone have an issue? Are there any problems? Maybe nobody says anything. But if you give an anonymous survey, I get a lot of feedback, things that nobody was saying before. So
yep.
Definitely a good idea.
I see Stephanie has a question in the chat of whether or not you can do it's up to you when you build the survey if you want it to be anonymous or if you want it to be associated with a user name. So that's something that you can decide. The same way for Zoom, there's actually a checkbox for anonymous or non-anonymous. The thing that is cool about Zoom too is it does save everything as a .csv file. You have to log into the web application and look at your past meetings, but you can pull down any of that data. So say, for example, that homework one that I shared, later, you know, I want to go back in and see whatever, I can go back and see that data. So it kind of saves it all for you. All right, Laura has a question. What survey did I use for the I personally like Google Forms. One of the things I guess I'm trying to do this semester is use Microsoft more, just because it is the UMass system. It has OneDrive. It has all the same functionality of Google. But yeah, I personally am more familiar with Google Forms. All right. Any other questions?
Laura, I have a question. So once you create it, can I use it again and again, or do I have to recreate it each time?
Polls or the Google one? Like the
survey, yeah, the end of the week.
You would create one for each week, because chances are you would want, yeah, different questions. And is that what you're asking? Or?
No, so if I did one for week 1 this semester, can I use it for next semester week 1, or do it that way? Okay.
You would just have to go out and clear out the results. But yeah, you can reuse surveys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions? I also find it really helpful to have the students make surveys too, and like it's really helpful for them to get in that like data collection mindset. One example of that is in web type, when they're getting to like the user testing, they have to send out their portfolio site to at least 5 other people and collect feedback on their portfolio site. So it starts to get them in a sense of like understanding why sometimes it's better to have check boxes than short answers, because then you get just kind of more clean, concise information back to you. So that might be something that you think of too, of like incorporating the students, building those surveys. All right, let me go back to this. All right, also just one thing I wanted to mention quick is just to add Zoom to my courses. So there's a link here. All these the blue text are all links. So that just allows for additional functionality. So that link is right there if you want to follow that tutorial. Let's next try out Whiteboard. So I'm gonna stop share, and then I'm gonna reshare a whiteboard. So I have all these tools here to either draw lines. I have a text tool, I can write things. I also have an eraser, I could go back and erase things. But what we're gonna try out today, just as an activity, is people collaborating on this document. So when I tried this earlier with Michelle, we realized what everyone needs to do to be able to write is you go to your view options, and then there should be an option for annotate. So do people see that? Michelle, I feel like you can lead the charge on. Is that you, Michelle, that just drew those lines?
Whoops, sorry, it wasn't me.
All these marks are showing up. So you can see, you could pull up like an image and have people be like, no, this makes more sense going to the left, whatever. But what I thought we could do with it today for fun as a community builder is to put I know maybe not everyone uses Instagram, but I thought we could put our Instagram handles on here so that we could follow each other on Instagram if we don't already. So it looks like a lot of people have tried that out, which is cool. I'm actually gonna clear it. So clear all drawings. Okay, so if people wanna try maybe either the text tool or whatever. Oh yeah, is that Laura that you're saying you used it at Summer Arts Lab? It's supposed to actually show. Let me go into the options.
Can you see who it is that's drawing? Is there a name connected with it?
Are you seeing it now? I just turned that option on. Oh, I just saw Michelle, like a little black square came above Michelle as Michelle was typing to say that it was her. Are other people seeing that too?
Yes.
Nice. All right, so I thought what we could do is everyone just take a minute, add their Instagram there, and then actually when we're all done, I'm just gonna do a screen capture, or there's a save option too. I was gonna do a screen capture, but now there's a save, so I'll save it and then send it around so that we have it. So can people think, of some ways that you can use this? Or maybe Laura, was that you that said you used it in Summer Arts Lab? Was there some ways that you used it that were fun?
Yeah, actually what just happened was the very last day at the exhibition, Jason had put up the logo for Summer Arts Lab at the end of the exhibition. There were just a couple of students still hanging out. And suddenly somebody was just drawing all over it and we couldn't figure it out. It was one of the high school students and she showed us how to do it. And so then we all just started drawing all over it. And I didn't know it was called Whiteboard. I was just drawing on it and having fun,
So yeah, the host has the more control. They can turn it off so that other people can't draw. You can clear, as I learned with Michelle today, like I can make new pages and like new whiteboards and like scroll back and forth, but other people can't. So yeah, just a thing to keep in mind that the host has a lot more control. Okay, so if anyone wants to add just anything else, I'll hit save in a second, and you don't have to put, oh, that's so cool. It's safe. It shows it to your Finder. So that's been one of the coolest, I will say the two coolest things about working on this work this summer is one, like I feel like I'm learning new tools as I go, which is really fun. And then the second is just even to see how many new things have been added. Like YouTube, for example, you can tell they're really trying to keep up with Slack and like Zoom and where everything's headed. So they're I feel like every week they're adding like new beta kind of video sharing things and chat things and collaborative things. So it's cool to see it kind of grow so much. Okay, so I will share that around with everyone. All right, keyboard. So Jess is saying that the keyboard undo shortcuts work on Whiteboard, which is.
Yeah, there was one more thing I wanted to mention since I used Whiteboard with a class of 10-year-olds over this summer, and I learned a lot of things. If they hit request remote control, there's no way to stop them from doing that when you're using Whiteboard. So this pop-up will just keep displaying in front of your screen over and over again. And if they're just waiting for you to accidentally hit accept, and then they can basically hack into your computer. Less of an issue with adults, obviously, but just good to know, I think. It's under view options when you're in the Whiteboard.
Is there an emergency eject button?
I think you just have to quit Zoom.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Okay, so let's go back to this document. All right, so are people interested in remote control? Like, or does that make some people uncomfortable, the idea of someone taking over their computer?
I used it this summer and I thought it was really helpful.
Yeah.
Especially when we had teams of students and they presented, we wouldn't have been able to use it without the remote control.
Yeah.
I would chime in that it's probably through remote control that would easily allow me to work over the students' piece, right? They've got their work on their laptops, they screen share with me, and then if I can take it over, I can draw it out. Right?
Exactly, yeah. So if people are comfortable with it, what we're gonna do next is go into breakout rooms of probably about like 3 or 4 is what actually probably like 3 I think will be a good size for this. So the first time you ever use share screen, if you haven't used it before, is you have to go into your settings of your computer and allow it. Because by default, Zoom has like a protective layer that isn't just gonna allow anyone to just go in and take over your computer. You have to give permissions to it. So I suggest doing this same sort of exercise if you are gonna use remote control in your courses. One of the first days that you're on Zoom, of putting people into small breakout rooms so that they can just all individually enable that and turn that setting on so that you don't have to do it as a big group and kind of slow everyone down. So the only hack I could think of in order to show you what breakout rooms look like and how to build them is to share my phone. So when you go to share screen, you have a few options. You can either share your whole desktop, a certain window, or you can also share your phone. So I found this semester, hold on, it's not going on, that I really liked using my phone to share camera. All right, so can everyone see my studio now? Yeah, cool.
Cool.
All right. So this is one of the ways that I liked doing it. This is like a, if you're trying to show someone how to make a book or something like that, and you're trying to show close-up detail, or say you have a bunch of thumbnails that are in your sketchbook. So I found this to be really helpful. So I suggest this could even be something that you try in these breakout rooms in a minute if you're also curious, is sharing your phone and showing your phone screen. I wanted to then show breakout rooms as well. Okay, so this is my hacky way that I'm showing breakout rooms. So when you go, can people see that okay, or is it kind of hard to see? Oh, it's giving me a recursion error, like looking infinitely down things. But basically, just the point of showing this is that when you go to create breakout rooms, you can either do them manually and put people in each room, or you can just do it automatically and say that, I want to bring this number up until I have 3 to 4 people in a room. So in a second, let me stop share for my phone. In a second, you are going to all leave this larger room, and you're gonna randomly be put in 6 breakout rooms. What I would like you to do when you're in that breakout room is all try out remote control. You do have the opportunity when you're in breakout rooms to message me. So if for any reason, like you don't see the remote control button, or you can't figure out how to change your settings or whatever like that, just flag me and I'll come to your room and help you out. Okay, so maybe we'll take like until like 4:40 or something like that to do this, and then we'll come back as a large room.
Hit share screen first and then it pops up at the top.
Yeah.
So you have to first share the screen.
So were you able to see it in the breakout rooms then?
Yeah.
Oh, you were? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, yay. I'm sorry. Okay, so maybe what I'll do is I'll put you back in those breakout rooms so you can practice. So Janine, just say you first have to go to the bottom to share screen.
Right, and then everyone shows up and you can click on everyone else to
Okay.
share your screen.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm gonna put you back in those breakout rooms, and we'll try it again, round 2. Sorry to pull you out of them. So I'll give people a minute to get back. Oh, Stacy's here now too. I think you might be muted, Stacy.
I've been here. I've just been, incognito.
Do people find that some students really prefer to be incognito, just there with their cameras off? Do you encourage students to turn their cameras on, or how do you go about that?
Yes, really. It was a hazard, I thought, a little bit in the spring as we got into it, because they would just turn it off and just do whatever they wanted. So Shane had a real problem with that at Stonehill. So they started requiring their students to be present.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are other people doing? Because it really is a motivation killer, sort of, if you're talking to an empty room.
Right.
I did the same, Stacy. I said, you know, if I'm over here talking and spending my time with you, being an active participant, I'm going to ask the same for all of you. If you
Right.
step away, if you need to, you know, feel free, just like you would step away in a classroom. But I did hear from other faculty that people were just shutting down, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't talk to an empty screen for an hour. It was just not happening.
Yeah, it was impossible, Rose. I agree.
We had an empty screen a lot in art history class, but a couple things we did was we had like little quiz questions and surveys and things in the middle of the lecture. And then also this summer with the last week with the summer arts lab, every once in a while, because they liked to just turn off their videos and work. And I would just say, okay, everybody turn their video on. I need to see that I'm not alone. And then they would. And then they'd stay visible for about 5 minutes, and then one by one they would just sort of turn off again.
Yeah. So just to go back to remote control for a minute. So I found it really helpful to take students' computers over to work on their code. That was one thing that I would do a lot. Like I would go in, and if they couldn't find the error, but I could see it, like, you know, sometimes it was faster for me to just go in and fix it. Also, some of the things, if they were in Photoshop, Illustrator, maybe struggling with something that they just kept kind of clicking again and again, and they weren't getting it as they were sharing their screen, then I would just very quickly request remote control, go in there, kind of fix stuff. So it works really well. The one thing it doesn't work well is the clipboard. So like, you know, copying and pasting, taking stuff from your computer, putting it in theirs. So just one thing to keep in mind, that it's much easier to just move around someone's mouse than it is to like give them content that's from your computer. When people were in those breakout rooms, did you get a chance for at least like 1 or 2 people to practice it, turn it on? Yeah. So if anyone didn't, oh, sorry, what were you gonna say, Jen?
Well, I just have a question to ask, like, how long do you think, what's a kind of minimum, what's kind of maximum amount of time do you give students, or, and you'll find them that they tend to concentrate with this method? Because I can't imagine, you know, for a 2-hour class, you know, just constantly talking away and back and forth.
What Scott just said of kind of 1 hour is like sort of the max. Yeah, I would say. Usually like people start to get saturated with video conferencing, which,
yes.
Yeah, so I think, you know, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, somewhere kind of in that range. And then you can also break up things into small, that's a little bit in the web document. Let me jump to that for a second. So in here, I have a section on keeping meeting sizes small and short. So limiting group video calls to 30 to 40, even 60 minutes. Like I'd say that use that as kind of like a max. Try to keep group sizes small. And then I have some suggestions of like, you know, you could do that a couple different ways. You could have everyone meet at the same time and break them all into breakout rooms and then jump around to each room. Or you could just create staggered appointments, kind of whatever makes more sense for you. Yeah. All right, so any other questions specifically around?
Quick question, when you were sharing your phone, were you logged into this Zoom meeting with that
No,
phone?
I was not, no. The only requirement is that you have to just be on the same Wi-Fi connection that your laptop is on. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great to know, okay.
I have to figure out a better way too of not, like luckily when I was sharing my screen, like no one was texting me, right? But like one thing I was you can either turn on, off notification. You can't turn on airplane mode, unfortunately, because then it's going to knock out your Wi-Fi, right?
Right.
But you can turn off notifications and like make sure that you turn that setting on before you start class, just so that, you know, you're not having text messages pop up as you're teaching and stuff like that. So that is one thing I would suggest is.
Laura, I have a real quick question. Are there any ramifications about us having these laptops that were given to us by school? Like one time I've tried to share remotely with my son, for instance, and it's disallowed. Like I have to go into manager or something, and because of CITS, the fact that they gave me this computer, that they don't let me share it remotely or something. Does anyone else have that?
I haven't had that come up.
Okay.
Other people's had that come up?
I don't know. Okay. I'll make sure. Thank you.
Yeah, you could maybe reach out to CITS with it. There might be a certain setting on your computer that's selected. Because yeah, you should be able to share and have remote access and all that kinds of stuff. Okay, so so this has more like kind of full like links. Like for example, this remote control brings you to a tutorial that kind of like walks through what we did today. But yeah, just kind of this document is meant to be kind of like a memory of what we went over today, and also to have links that can bring you to things. Okay, so I just want to talk about the 3 other pieces of technology in addition to Zoom. So Slack, YouTube, and Instagram. So let me switch over to Slack. So are people seeing this Slack window? So Slack is what I recommend using for your courses. So this is what's called a persistent chat program. So like say, for example, anything in Zoom today that we're messaging each other, asking questions, the second we close out of Zoom, that's gone. We can't, like students can't go back and access it. They can't be like, oh, that link, I wanted to learn more about that. Like it's just gone. So that's why it's great to use a persistent chat program alongside Zoom. You might even want people to be messaging over on Slack versus Zoom, just because it will save it. So I just wanted to give you kind of a walkthrough of what Slack looks like. It's used heavily in art and design. So you're in a way training your students to use this platform that they're most likely going to continue to use as professionals. It's really all about these channels. So this is an example of a coding bootcamp I did a few years ago. This is how we set ours up. So we had one for activities. We had one for specifically that were the women in this coding program as kind of like an underrepresented group. We had this one, this secret, that was like for us to get gifts for our instructors towards the end of the semester. So you can see some of these channels have locks next to them. What that specifically means is that it's locked of who can actually see it. So like there's a certain amount of people that are in it, and that's it. So I think we locked out, you can think of it, yeah, as like locking something. So I think we locked out all of our teachers, but we invited in all the students so that they couldn't see that. We also have other things like this might be a thing you want to consider, like having an ethics channel, and like at the beginning of the semester setting sort of like course guidelines and kind of like standards of, you know, the course. And then that can be a chain that everyone can go back and read later, or say that there's a conflict that happens between 2 students. You can be like, remember as a group when we set this kind of agreed upon code of ethics, or there's a channel in here for just specifically links that we were all sharing. So yeah, you can kind of organize it in whatever way makes sense to your class. I also suggest having a fun channel, like just a place where people can put silly GIFs or things that are kind of like lighthearted. You can also create channels for small breakout groups. So you might want to maybe at the beginning of the semester have almost like treat it like a cohort environment, like break up your class of say 18 into like 3 smaller groups, 4 smaller groups, and then they have their own channel that they can message each other with, you know, do in-process critiques, talk about homework, whatever that is. So this is kind of what Slack looks like. I would like to do another workshop where we just go over setting up workspaces for your classrooms, because I think that this will be a really valuable tool. Michelle and I did experiment with the video component of Slack today, which is great because again, like if you're asking people to video conference in Zoom, but then write to each other in Slack, like most students only have one screen. They don't have like a dual monitor system. So what you might want to do is actually, again, like this is the only dual monitor they have, most likely, right, is their phone. So they could have the chat program maybe open on their phone, or you could also have them do video calls in Slack. You can't do group calls you have to have the paid membership for that, but you can do like one-on-one calls with each other. So you can meet with your students for like a weekly meeting this way, or kind of other things. So
Do you know if Slack offers remote control?
I do not believe that it does. No. Yeah.
Do you know if if somebody posts something into one channel, can you move those posts into other channels and reorganize them? Because I'm thinking about like if we're in class and we're chatting to each other and things like a good link comes up, is it possible to categorize that post so that in the future the students can just look for links that are recommended links instead of having to remember which week we were chatting about it?
I think Jess's answer is correct, that I think you would have to just delete it and post it again to the channel that you want.
Okay.
I don't think it's like has that drag and drop functionality, unfortunately.
Okay.
I would do it where I would just copy and paste it into the general channel, and then that would go out to all the students.
Okay.
And Otto, I would say, Sean is saying that Discord does allow for remote control. I would say to look into it for Slack too. Like I personally have not seen that function, but it's possible that it does exist. I feel like Slack, all these programs are always changing and adding new features. So what Michelle and I were learning too, and just kind of the two of us playing around with it today, is like when you do want to start to do some fancy stuff, it just like says like, no, you got to get the paid version, which is kind of unfortunate. But it seems like the persistent chat is helpful because, again, like say a student takes my web type class and then 2 years from now they're preparing for a job interview in web development. They could actually log back into my workspace and like see my channel for assignments or see channels for links, and like all that content is still there for them. It's still accessible. So Slack is what we're going to lean towards using in the graphic design department. Discord is what animation and game arts is going to lean more heavily into because it's more an industry standard for their field. But again, they're two very similar programs. They're basically persistent chat programs that are built kind of around channels. Okay, so unpaid.
I was going to answer Rose and Stephanie's question, like why would you use Slack instead of Blackboard? And I feel that it's much more intuitive, and also it can be on your desktop. It can also be on your phone so that you can have conversations with students or groups of students at any time, whether it be class or not class time. Did that answer it?
Follow-up. Are you not using My Courses at all? Is it basically Slack and Zoom?
I didn't use My Courses at all. I used Google Classroom and Slack, and then a little bit of Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
A little bit of 3.
Yeah, I think everyone's probably going to approach that differently. Like, you could have, like, I have not used Google Classroom, but it sounds like Google Classroom and My Courses serve the same function of just being this like central gathering place of like, that's where you go for everything, and then like links you kind of off from there. And then most likely it'll either be like like OneDrive or Google Drive that students are submitting assignments on. And Michelle also mentioned that Google Classroom has like a submit your assignment function.
So if I'm on My Courses, for those of you who aren't using it, My Courses is really clunky and doesn't do enough. And I'm totally going to be bringing in some Slack and stuff. But what's really nice about My Courses is you can create a place for them to submit their work. And in that place, you can have an assessment document with a rubric. And as you're looking at their work, you can actually click like within the rubric if they what they hit. And it's all, and you can set it up all mathematically. And then at the bottom, it just tells you they got this out of this, and it figures out the percentage for you, and it figures out the grade for you. And then in my courses, you can say, you know, if this one is worth 20% and this one's worth 40% and this one's worth 10%, their overall grade gets totally done for you mathematically. So you never have to do any of the math, which I love. So I like math, but I don't like having to do it for grading. So that's a bonus of my courses.
The other thing with my courses is we can capture at the end of every semester, and then we document that for accreditation. So that way we can capture, and then what we do is we can upload it again for this semester from last semester, so I don't have to do anything except for rewrite the dates. So like when we came from Oneida, I took all of our Canvas courses and uploaded our entire curriculum. So Stephanie and I had the whole curriculum already built. So we can take faculty in and out and we just give them that classroom to work in. So I can't imagine, I mean, Steph and Mongol are both here and they're both using it too. I can't imagine we would eliminate that. I think we would add some of these other features, but I feel like we're so vested into it right now. It would frighten me, quite honestly, to not use it at this point. But it's clunky. We came from Canvas that was beautiful, and I keep asking IT to please go to Canvas.
Janine, just to go back to your question in the chat from a little bit ago, you were asking, can we link this into my courses? Were you talking about Slack or?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, you can link to your Slack room from my courses. Like to the workspace.
Yeah, so it's not university sanctioned. We can start linking from there.
Yeah, like I know some people like Scott, I don't know how you're going to end up doing it for the fall, but like, you know, you could use even like your own website or your own Tumblr, and just all my courses is literally just the link to that week's post. So you could think of it as this like central repository that's just hosting links, like posting a link to Slack, a link to week 1, a link to week 2, whatever. But it's kind of the central gathering place, and it's also, like Laura was mentioning, it's really easy to do grading there. So it might just be that that's like the only real heavy lifting that you use my courses for, and everything else is just links to other locations. That's kind of like a little bit how I'm planning on using mine, at least at the moment. Any other questions about Slack? All right, so just to keep moving, I'm not gonna pull up a YouTube screen or an Instagram screen because I assume probably not everyone, but a lot of people are somewhat familiar with those platforms. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about how they could be used. So YouTube, like I mentioned, is really trying to keep pace with like all the world's changes that have happened with coronavirus. So they've added a lot of new features, one of which is this premieres. I'm not exactly sure how old it is, but it seems like they're promoting it now. I might actually use this in my junior, senior level class. It almost like turns the release of a movie into an event. So one of my assignments, I'm gonna have them make a movie, and then I think I'm gonna have like a night where we like premiere them. So you can click on that link to learn more about it. But basically when you upload a video, there's just a checkbox for make this a premiere. And then you pick the day and time that you want the video to be released. So say your class meets next on a Monday at 12 p.m. You could set that as the premiere time. Everyone logs in, and then you kind of like watch the video together, and it has all these like additional social networking like comments and things that you can do. So just might be a thing to consider. You can also do your content as live streams if you want it on YouTube. And then the other thing that YouTube has, which is really nice, is these themed playlists. So say, for example, in 2D, I'm going to be teaching gouache painting. Say I make 7 different videos that break down the color progression and gouache and all that stuff. I can create a curated playlist where all of those are kind of held in a container together, and then the student can kind of move through it at their own pace. So might be some use cases. YouTube is one of the most popular apps in the world. So I don't know if it's interesting to you to grow your network beyond your specific class, but who knows who ends up watching my color sequence on gouache, so just another thing to kind of keep in mind. And then as far as some things that you could use Instagram for, you could consider having a hashtag for either a class, an assignment, or again, like these kind of cohort environments that might help build community. Young people are on Instagram probably way too much. So the group messaging feature, like I use it for the code club that I run. And like, I will literally send out a message about like an update or an event or like a great webinar that I think that they would be interested in. And probably within 10 minutes, like 80% of the people have viewed it already and clicked on it. So you can just access them way more than you probably can through their email or things like that. They're just more on it. You also can have collections. So say like you're working on a mural or something like that. You can make a collection called Mural Inspiration and save everything there. Unfortunately, at this moment, they don't have it so that you can share collections with other people or do collaborative collections. But like I just showed, you can share your phone screen on Zoom. So you could have the student pull up their, it's almost like Pinterest. They could pull up their collection of inspiration for their mural and kind of walk you through it and share things that way. And then obviously the last one is just that it aids in community building. You know, just to be able to follow accounts, it's such a visual platform. It's really meant for visual artists to share content. So that can be really helpful. So yeah, those are kind of my suggestions for tech tools to use. I don't know necessarily that I'm going to go line by line through this course suggestions list, because I think it would maybe take a little bit too long and I want to wrap up relatively soon, but maybe I'll just kind of go through and talk about some of the things that I feel are really important, or maybe if you see things kind of as we go. I would love everyone to check out this virtual course tour. So this is one of the things that I spent time with Scott over the summer and a group of students. So hello. We basically made a course tour of Scott's information design class. You can watch it kind of more closely. There's also a guide here for if you want to make your own virtual course tour, kind of like walking you through the steps that we went through to make this, how we came up with the script. This also exists as a template file in Premiere. So if you, sorry, there's like a group of motorcyclists going by right now. If you are interested in making one of these course tour videos, I would love to help you make it. We have a template file. Again, this came out of the Office of Faculty Development, that working group, because apparently having a course tour video like this like really aids in the success of your course. Like it just is like a great way to like kind of kick off a course and help students understand why they're taking this course, what they're going to learn, what the progression is going to be like. We also thought it could be cool once like a more robust collection of these are made, that they could be used as advising tools. So if students were trying to figure out their schedules, they could be like, here, watch this 2-minute video on information design. I know you're an illustration major, but it seems like you really love information. Maybe try that out. So yeah, definitely.
Where would prospective students find that? How would they get to that if they're thinking about taking a particular course?
I mean, at the moment, there's, I guess, I don't know, that may be a question for Laura. I'm not sure where they would live. I guess.
I think we should talk to Paula and have a maybe a page on CVPA where it's like, here's introductions to, here's a course tour for all of our courses that are, something like that.
Yeah. Oh, and Scott's saying too, linked in the course catalog, which is, yeah. So again, if you're interested in those, I still am figuring out my junior, senior level course that I have in graphic design, but I think what we're going to do for one of the assignments is for the students to actually make a course tour video, like with a faculty member. So if you're interested in being one of that kind of beta group, I guess Scott was beta, but if you're interested in being in the second round of course tour videos, let me know, because that can be a thing that we help you with the production of. So that was really fun to make. Thank you, Scott, for all your hard work on it. Computer's being weird right now. Sorry, it's glitching out. All right, let me go back to share screen. So I'll just go through this kind of fast, and then I actually have an exit survey for all of you today to give me some feedback, and then we'll be done. Okay, so I also talk about using email like really minimally. So again, just kind of effective communication. It's better to keep emails really short and again, just put links that direct students other places. In addition to a course tour video, you might want to consider making another short video that just walks students through the logic of your file progression or how you're storing things or where they submit things, just because again, they're taking maybe 5 classes that at least have some remote component to them. And if every class is set up slightly different, it's good for them to just have one place that they go to like learn how everything's organized and sorted. We talked a little bit about item number 4 already, just keeping meeting sizes small and short and kind of how you can go about that. This is another tutorial I'm interested in building if people want help, but just a way that people can sign up for office hours virtually. So it could just be a link in the signature of your email that brings you to a Microsoft document or a Google Doc where students can just sign up. So if you're interested in that, let me know. And then this last part came from Michelle. So I don't know if Michelle, if you want to say anything about it, but just this idea of really thinking about collaboration for your courses. Like how can you break students into smaller groups and have them work on projects together? Or there's just a lot coming out, and I think we all see it intuitively too as we're building these courses, that like the students need to take the initiative. Like they need to be in groups themselves and kind of figure out like their workflow and how to make kind of things happen. And yeah, Michelle, I don't know if you want to add anything to that. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, you covered it.
Nice. All right, so I just wanted to offer a little bit of time if anyone has like other suggestions or questions, things you're thinking about for the fall.
I've learned a lot, and I'm honestly just feeling so much more excited about the fall, that there's just so much more we can do than I had thought. So this is really cool. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Otto.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
Thanks. And I'd like to do more of these sorts of sessions too, just because I think there is a lot of ground to cover. Ooh. Sorry, I just put that link in there for the exit survey and realized it has that edit at the bottom, which doesn't make sense because you shouldn't be able to edit it. So let me send another link in. Okay, so if you could all just take a second and end the workshop today by following that last link, the one that I sent at 5:10. That just collects some feedback for me of kind of what worked, what didn't work, and what else you're interested in learning more about. And I'm excited to continue this work on with all of you too. I love CVPA and I'm excited to support it.